Alright, so Thondero the Sword is the most relevant part of the module for me. I don't know, it's just nice to have role models again.
Yeah, I certainly like him better than anybody else here.
Well, also because it looks like the thing he does is like fight, and then he just fights more, and he's level 21, and he sounds really boring for somebody who's had 21 levels worth of adventures. But I'm into that, I guess.
And a 21st level adventurer named the Sword, whose weapon is a sword +2.
You know what he sounds like? Fighter from, what was it? Nuclear Power Comics or whatever, the Final Fantasy comic from forever ago.
Yeah, haven't thought about that in a hair's age.
That's where I learned to be funny.
So I feel like I talked so much as referee, and I would really love to, like, I want to hear your take.
All right. Well, my take is this. I wanted this podcast to be about dungeon crawls and dungeon analysis, but really the big thing about this one is just how it's structured. Most of my thoughts revolve around how convoluted the beginning is. I remember reading a long time ago, someone posted like rules for writing. Like if you have 5 characters, see if you can simplify them down into 4. If you have 4 characters, see if you can simplify them down into 3. I feel like all these stupid wizards running around, hiding in woods, delivering messages and teleporting away could have been simplified a lot more. At its heart, all it is a random tomb and then sort of a linear tower that doesn't look like a tower because it's floaty and I guess covered in mist. It's just 2 adventure locations with a couple seats to tie them together. And if that's what you are crafting your adventure hooks around, it behooves you to make it as simple as possible, you know? And I don't know, I thought that like the old school modules, you don't need to have too many hooks besides like, here's a weird thing, go investigate it if you want or not. The heavy-handed, strong encouragement to kind of like almost force players to take certain paths of actions sits poorly with me. Even after reading this and playing it, I had a hard time keeping straight. Because like one of the guys has different names, like he what was his name?
The Cheiromar? But
yeah,
also,
the Cheiromar is a title, and he has his real name too, you know.
And it switches back and forth the way that it refers to him, yeah.
And like, there's the 4 apprentices, and then one of them's dead, and then 2 of them are evil, and one's married and doesn't appear, but yet has a part to play in all this too, for it to make sense, sort of. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That is a particularly convoluted wrinkle where there's a whole character that the module makes kind of a big deal of right at the start, who never appears and seems to only exist as a potential threat after the adventure's over. Maybe she'll think that the players are the ones who did all the evil things.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even that fun. My problem is not that it's like uninspired. There definitely are a few cool parts. It's just that so many of them, like, they don't carry over to fun scenes. I don't know. So here's my question for you then. If you had 2 adventure locations that are not bad, a tomb is always nice and a tower is kind of fun, and you want the players... Well, also a third thing too. I feel like when Ed Greenwood wrote this, he really had in mind the battle royale at the end, because he spent so many words talking about how the evil wizards would fight if they were fighting in the tower, how the evil wizards would fight if they had like a chance to betray each other or run over to get to the magical throne, and how you could kill them if they got to the throne before you. Like, he really was anticipating this big climactic battle at the end, and in our case it kind of got spoiled because I killed the evil wizards in the forest. And that kind of like points to the weakness of boss battles, is you can't hang too many hats on them. They're a nice little bonus, and they can be fun, and you can put nice wrinkles on them, but you shouldn't really like expect them to be the epic ending, because players fuck it up like 60% of the time.
I also personally find that kind of big bad boss guy really difficult to run. It's something that old school D&D is really enamored of. This big powerful wizard who has a huge list of magic items and spells, and as a referee who has to listen to everything that the players are saying about what they do and interpret how that impacts the world, I find it very difficult to also spend time scanning over multiple spell lists of 30, 40 spells, trying to think of the most effective one to use next round.
Yeah, I fucking hate it. I hate it. If I wrote it myself, it's a little better because I already know what they are, but I still fucking hate having to read it. It's two evil wizards. They're basically homeless. They don't have a history. All they do is hang out in the woods and try to fucking Scooby-Doo people into going up the tower. I don't know. Level 21 homeless wizards with nothing better to do is kind of ridiculous. Plus, they also kind of like committed one of the ancestral faux pas of Big Bad Evil Guys, and that is they didn't characterize them. They're just two evil high-level wizards that literally jump out of the bushes at the worst possible time, And they don't have chances to interact or show their characters or show their goals, and the adventure proceeds without the players necessarily learning about the evil wizards or their goals. Like in the beginning, they killed some guy for taking a shit, I guess, or because he knew details. Or, I don't know, it's a little unclear why they killed that one random trapper who went to take a shit at the Jakes. But that could have been a chance. You could have, like, talked to that guy and learned about him. You could have, like, approached the players if you wanted to be heavy-handed about it. You could have had an interaction with them, but you could have had a chance there. You could have had a chance at the tomb to talk to the wizards or people that knew them, or, like, had a preliminary encounter, if you wanted to do that. Or you could have one wizard try to get you to kill the other wizard, and both wizards gang up against you. I don't know. There's so many things you could have done with it besides have two wizards jump out of the bushes at the end. It's the weakest implementation.
So part of the reason that I ran this is because it's something that I had been preparing to run for my own players and will run for my own players. And I'm looking forward to that with my group. But part of the reason I'm looking forward to that is because I had high-level wizards in my campaign that they already had relationships with that I could sub in. And this is more of a criticism of our format, but I feel like I'll be able, in that game, when I know that those encounters are coming, look at the spell lists and, think through them a little bit more. Whereas when you're, trying to condense it all down, it's harder to do.
Maybe, but, you could still... Do you lose things by making it simpler? What if it's just, one of the wizards just hires you to raid this tomb for bits and then help him kill his partner, and then he's like, haha, me and my partner are actually going to kill you, and then haha, they all double, triple, reverse betray each other, which sounds a little more fun, then at least you have more to go from the beginning, if you strip away the unnecessary mystery, does the module get worse if the module starts with the wizard walking up to you like, hey, I'm a level 21 wizard, there's another level 20 wizard in the woods, then I want his stuff. I want you to help me. Here's some money. Does the dungeon crawl become less fun? Because the mystery was not very fun because I never really fucking solved it, The dungeons were okay, but would the module be better or worse for that change?
Yeah. I think you could very easily strip away the murder mystery because players are going to want to go to the Endless Stair because it's a place where treasure is. There doesn't need to be a murder mystery that motivates them to go there. You could also strip away that guy in the maroon robe who, you've read the module now. You know that he's, a red herring, I guess, at best.
He just yells at you about dead people.
He shows up twice to yell at you, and then you encounter him dead. And he literally had nothing to do with anything that was going on at any point.
The wizards felt like random encounters, so did that dude. Honestly, you could put that on a random encounter table. It's just crazy dude in a red maroon robe who yells about ancestors and teleports away. It would be equally sensical.
Yeah. Speaking of the ancestors, though, I will say that I liked the new dungeon built upon an older dungeon and kind of desecrating that older dungeon.
But did it feel like it though? Because it just felt like a place where a weird pile of stones yelled at me about a body being moved. No,
it absolutely didn't feel like it. You're right.
Yeah, it's a cool fucking idea. I also like the idea where someone just finds a cool tomb, is like, oh, I like this tomb, I'm gonna keep it for myself, and they just take all the bodies out, throw them on the hillside, they turn into whites, and then they use that sweet, sweet tomb for themselves and their family. And then the whites on the outside are someone else's problem to deal with. That's an easy way to reskin it. Where did all these fucking whites come from? Well, the tombs were desecrated, and this is why, And you could have 2 layers of architecture, or maybe one tomb dug down, intersected another, and then the events I just described occurred, Like, oh, free tomb for the taking. We can stop digging, boys. We found like 10 free rooms. Let's just get these fucking dirt out of these coffins. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
You know, you've read the module now, so you've read all of those secret areas. I will start off by saying I actually really like the trap in the first secret room where you open the door and like there's a chain attached to the door that like raises a spiked gate or something like that.
Yeah, I also like that a lot. I like that a lot too. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
The spiked gate stays up so long as one door is closed. And if both are open, it falls and kills it. And I've read a good number of these old modules, and this is a surprisingly well-described and comprehensible and well-telegraphed trap.
No, it's actually, I agree with you. It's a well-done trap. It makes sense. It's easy to describe. It's easy to game. It's easy for the party to figure out how it works, you know, and then use it if they want to. It doesn't feel unfair if it falls on you. You have evidence that there's a trap in this room, you know.
If only it wasn't behind a completely untelegraphed secret door.
See, that's not how I would write it, but I also think I'm running a different kind of game than they were back then. Maybe back then the idea was you just say, I search the room for secret doors, and then take your 2 in 6 chance every single room. And if there's a bunch of you, you probably find it. But if I was rewriting this, I would telegraph it somehow.
Have you read Retired Adventurer's 6 Cultures of Play essay from a few months ago?
Probably not.
I'll link it to you after the fact, but he has classic play, as would be demonstrated by this module, or the people who made this module, I should say, and OSR play, and he completely differentiates them. They're very distinct.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's not even like a genre expectation. It's like a gameplay expectation. If the way you play the game involves you saying, I search the room for secret doors every room, that's fine. But I don't think that translates well into the modern OSR headspace.
Beyond that trap, there was a few things back there that were like interesting and odd. I guess I want to talk about all of them, kinda.
There's some cool shit back there.
There's this like orb filled with treasure and a tiny dragon, and it is the most complicated. I am terrified of ever having to run that room. It's so complicated.
It has a good chance of just blue screening the DM. It's the way I spent 10 minutes reading it, and then basically you just say, like, there's a tiny dragon in an orb. If you stick your hand in to get his treasure, he breathes fire on you and bites you, and nothing you do can hurt the tiny dragon or take his gold, you know? There, now I summarized it.
Yeah. But also the tiny dragon is another wizard in this module about many wizards.
Yeah, but there's no way to get him out of there. He knows nothing interesting and can't communicate it, so what's the fucking point, you know?
I mean, he's literally the teacher of several of the wizards who are now dead from old age, whose elderly apprentices are the movers and shakers of the module.
Yeah, but like, it's so strange to me that he doesn't explain things. And they have the talking head robot that explains things, which is kind of cool. I like him. Arton.
Yeah, Arton is neat.
Yeah, Arton's cool. I would actually use Arton. Him and that spike trap are great little pieces of this dungeon.
He's a little bit of a contradiction, right? Because he is at once very knowledgeable about many things, but also has I won't say a broken brain, because it seems like Arton is working as intended, but seems completely unaware of the passage of time, for example.
Yeah, like, he cares about the Axe Lord, but he also is weirdly indifferent to him. Like, it's a good example of, like, an alien psychology, where he's very curious, he wants to know things, he wants to share knowledge, but he doesn't really care what it's used for, what happened. He just wants to know about the Axe Lord. He's not invested in helping him, really, you know?
Yeah, and he even though he's very curious about gathering information, he doesn't really seem to be able to connect information together. Like, you can tell him about 2 and you can tell him about 2, but he'll never figure out 4.
I thought if you asked him, like, hey, we found a body without any marks on it, he could say, like, some interesting deductions, like, could be poison, disease, or magic, but whether those 2 deaths are related, I cannot say, you know.
That's true, yeah.
There's some ability in there to reason and deduct. I don't know. I feel like I don't know why this module just doesn't let you take Arton and throw him in your backpack, you know? Why is he's bolted to the pedestal, you can't move him to the pedestal without him blowing up or some dumb shit. Because everything has like a paragraph about why it explodes if you try to mess with it. But why not just let you take Arton? Like, would that break your campaign? It'd be a better module if you could have a fucking talking robot head. But I feel like maybe just the expectation of the gameplay was that the things you take with you are standard magic items, and Arton is too non-standard to come with you, maybe? Maybe that's the reason? Like, the things you can bring with you are scrolls and magic swords and typical magic things, and everything else is just a bespoke piece of the dungeon that you don't carry forward. I don't know. It kind of feels like less impactful play, where you can the only impact you get out of the dungeon is XP and loot, you know? And you can't bring things forward or change the world in bigger ways, which also feels a little antithetical to modern OSR gaming, you know? But they love impact.
I wonder how much tournament play influenced the way that this module was written.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you agree that the game would be better if you could just throw Arton in your backpack?
Yeah, you should be able to take anything. You should also be able to talk to anything. Like, so many things in here that just attack you. Like the Scorpion Man, which is really frustrating.
Yeah. But here's another question with the Scorpion Man, because the Scorpion Man is interesting because it's just a comment they threw in there. It's a little, haha, you took the magic sword, you fool, haha. But it's also like a chance to be more thematic, you know? If the theme of the dungeon is one tomb that was intersected by a different tomb, the Axe Lord's tomb intersected by this wizard's tomb, you could have had more chances to throw history or flavor or protectors or axe-wielding skeletons or literally anything. And they chose to have some unrelated Scorpion Man. And, I mean, when you write an adventure, you don't want everyone you meet to be a minion of the big bad evil guy. But, like, it seems like a chance for a lost opportunity for storytelling.
Yeah. I straight up don't understand why he fights you. Because, like we said in our actual play, him fighting you is literally just him doing exactly what his captor wished he would do.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if he had some weird demands, like, we gotta go destroy the Axe King's axe, or we gotta go destroy this magical item that was used to imprison me. And then you gotta choose between, like, enraging this guy by not destroying the axe that turns people into scorpions, or, you know, fighting him, or learning more about the history.
Yeah. So, the eyes. I've read the module, like, twice. I have no idea what the eyes are for.
I think it's just trying to spook you out and be spoopy, and they're kind of stupid, you know?
Yeah, the monster entry is literally like, they're here to watch, they'll never attack you. If you hit them, they'll hit you back one time, and then they'll go back to watching passively.
Yeah, they
like,
zap
you. Never talk to them.
If you hit them, they zap you, and then they stop zapping you, and they reply to you with one zap per hit, and they don't do anything else. It's not interactable in a fun way, I guess. You're like, okay, I guess it zaps me, and then what do you do with that, you know? I didn't even figure out where it said that they were linked to a wizard, you know?
I don't think they are. I mean, they can be summoned from, I think it was the ethereal plane, one of the planes. And they're clearly connected to the, like, big magic speech at the fake tomb. And some of them pop out of the stairs on the Endless Stair. So, like, they're connected to the wizards, but the wizards don't seem to get to do anything.
God, it's such a fucking wasted opportunity. Just link it to a guardian on the stairs or in the tomb, and then when you get there, all the eyes, like, coalesce onto this fucking sphere of eyes, and it's like, I know if you've been naughty or good. You're naughty. I will punish you. And then it starts taking their eyes, and their eyes fly off their face and slither across the ground and join the pile of eyes, and then shoots eye beams. I don't know. Like, that's kind of cool.
Even a smaller change that I think would have worked great is the floating skull who narrates the last dungeon to you.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What if he had an idea of whether or not you were worthy to receive information?
I saw you pee on that skeleton. You've been naughty. Lasers, yeah. Anything, literally anything. I don't know. I like the idea of a giant just covered with eyeballs. Lots of weak points, but he can see in all directions. And it's all the eyes of all the people who have died, and your eyes, if you touch them, then he gets to steal your eyes for when the combat starts. Missed opportunity.
It is overall a module that seems kind of obsessed with red herrings, with things that are meant to make the players think they're connected to something, but don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of exhausting from both ends. Like, I've only run the module, but it's exhausting to think about running it this way. And as a player with even less information, I think I'd be miserable. I think I'd totally zone out and let the other players deal with the bullshit.
Yeah, a good example, too, is when you come down into the tomb for the first time, there's a hallucination or dream or phantom of all these previous wizard apprentices fighting each other, and it makes you sad and scared, and it traumatized my poor little thief. What the fuck was the point of that? It didn't give information, it just feels like a red herring. It makes you doubt other things. And the thing about red herrings is you don't have to introduce new ones. Your players will find red herrings on their own. They will find things to latch on and try to pull meaning out of, you know? Every red herring is a missed opportunity to tell a coherent story or build investment in what's happening.
The thing about red herrings in a typical narrative is that the storyteller controls the flow of the narrative, and that's why they are red herrings. In D&D, where the audience, the players, is controlling the flow of the narrative, every red herring has the potential to become the main story if the players decide that that's what they're interested in. So when you throw in these red herrings that don't connect to anything and don't mean anything, it is going to end up feeling hollow when some player decides, these eyes are the most interesting thing in the world to me, let's figure out their deal.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned it too, it's a sort of fatigue that comes with it. Like, once you have this dead guy that dies at the beginning, some bullshit that happens in the forest with random teleporting maroon fellow, the guys that fight each other, the fight phantoms, this random scorpion, it feels random, it feels disconnected, and it makes me not want to investigate any of this bullshit. So even if there was more to discover about the dead guy at the beginning, or much more to discover about anything, I'm less likely to want to investigate it because so much of the stuff I wasted time investigating has nothing to teach me or nothing to tell me. I was going to say the web trap is interesting, where you pick up a magic axe and then all of a sudden the sky just starts shitting webs on you. That's a little interesting, but there's not enough information in there on how to run it, really. Like, I guess you burn it, chop it as fast as you can to get the guy out. Maybe it was more apparent to people back then if they knew the intricacies of the web spell, which I think is actually a pretty long spell in BX.
It's also a pretty low level spell.
Level 2.
Presumably, this is a module that I think says at the beginning that you must have 2 high-level wizards in your party in order to succeed. So, presumably the players would be relatively familiar.
Yeah, I mean, I would have appreciated more guidance, but maybe the idea is you just use burning hands to clear the webs and then the fellow jumps out. Also, there was nothing in there about alternate ways to scale the stairs. So are we done talking about the crypt? And
yeah, I was actually about to segue onto the stairs myself.
Okay, so the stairs are basically just a tower without walls, and I guess it's kind of funny because I guess you can't see the bottom from the top because it's kind of misty. I guess I'm a little unclear. I'm a little hazy about the haze. But there was nothing. I read it a couple times looking for instructions. Like, what do you do if the players try to fly up there? Do you just allow them? Did you catch anything like that?
I don't think so. The stairs are smooth and not attached to anything, and they're covered with magical protections. But I think there's really nothing stopping players from flying up, except the door doesn't exist until someone steps on that step. So if players flew up, they would never find the door. Yeah,
I don't know. It's just you just fly up infinite stairs and step on them. I suppose you fly to stair 301 because I believe the door appears at stair 300. They didn't spend any words on it, and you got to imagine wizards of that level are going to have fly, and even level 1 thief is going to have a grappling hook.
This is actually an interesting question because, let's say you're flying up. So you get to stair 300. You don't know it's the top stair, so you don't step on it. You go past it. We know that there is a step 301, because if you go around step 300 and step on step 301, you get teleported. Is step 301 the last stair then?
I don't know, man. It's kind of fuzzy, and I feel like they should have hammered it out better. What I would have done is just fucking, when you step on the first stair, it actually just takes you to the stair dimension. And then you're just locked in this misty fucking dimension forever. And then you have to like step on the right sequence of stairs, and you get branching stairs, and you get different stair highways. And the stairs last for days, as I hope you brought like 6 days of rations. And then the stairs get smaller and smaller, and you can walk into skinny stairs and find a way to sleep on the stairs. And then fucking, I don't know, you gotta find a gap, and the stairs continue beyond the gap, and there's lightning and fucking storms, and just make it a dimension of stairs, you know? You could have done better things with it than just, it's a tower without walls, basically.
I kinda disagree with you.
Ooh, good.
I do agree that it's a deeply flawed in the way that it's presented, but I actually really like that it's a physical artifact that people in the region are familiar with, and like they might use it to navigate. Take the path and then turn right at the big endless stairs with all the corpses at the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of neat to me. You're right that there's really nothing stopping people from using grappling hooks, but maybe if there were like 500 stairs and the door appeared when you stepped on stair 300, then players are kind of stuck testing a lot of stairs if they want to find the door. And then you get to do this linear dungeon in the form of a staircase, right?
I mean, it's just a bunch of linear things, but why not make it weirder, you know? If someone steps on stair 40, it glows. If someone steps on stair 80, it also glows. And if someone's standing on both stairs at the same time, a branching path appears on stair 85 or something, going to a new section of the stairs. You could make it a non-linear tower and just have new stairs phase in. You know, it can still be a physical place in the world. It doesn't have to be the stair dimension. It can just be a stair dungeon that takes place on the stairs, which is kind of cool. I like that.
No, I mean, that idea that you just said, that's sick as hell. I like it. I do agree that it definitely should have been more interesting. It was a lot of bland encounters that you're meant to fight through. And I will say at least a combat encounter in that environment is more interesting than a typical combat encounter because it's a staircase. You can maybe only have one person safely in the front row.
What's the scariest thing to see coming down the staircase at you?
A bull.
I was going to say a bull. Yeah, a bull for sure. A bull or like, a fucking elephant seal. That's it. I picked that one.
I will say there's 2 stairs that I would keep, like, straight up. The one that randomly removes the highest level spell from a caster. I'm just going to start including that trap places.
No, I don't like it. Make the highest level spell sentient, and then you have to argue with it why it should stay in your head, and what kind of rights it's going to get in the future, and if it gets Sundays off or some shit. Or how about a trap, and like all of a sudden the stairs start floating farther away from the center of the tower. So like they were 1 foot apart, now they're 2 feet, now they're 4 feet, now they're 5 feet, and you have to find a way to reverse it. I don't know. Stair themes. Embrace the stair theme.
Oh yeah, you can definitely make all of it better.
Or what about some like dick demon that's like, hey, for 5 gold I'll fly you to the top, and then just fucking throws your ass in the tree. Says, why would you ever believe a demon? I don't know.
That's really good too. I also like the gust of wind stair. You step on it and it's just a gust of wind. I like some simple stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's good too. It's very simple, and it makes you realize, well, we should have fucking tied ourselves together, or maybe taken some precautions against getting pushed off. You know? No, I have no problem with the gusty, windy stair.
Honestly, like, just junk falling down the stairs. Like, like here's a barrel rolling down the stairs.
Donkey Kong. That's great. Yeah. Fucking telegraph the boss at the landing. Telegraph the boss on level 102, stair 102, by throwing barrels beginning at stair 92, you know?
That's pretty sick.
That would be great.
And then I do kind of like, I like that there's pressure to use the stairs. The like wizards attacking you is not the best way to do it.
Agreed.
But the idea that there's something at the bottom that is not going to let you take a rest. I think the weakest part of this module is the second dungeon.
The second dungeon, I think, only makes sense if you get there, start exploring a couple of rooms, and then bam, hobo wizards jump out of the bushes and start messing around with all the magical items they know how to use. Like, they know how to use the healing cabinet and you don't. They know how to use the buttons of blasting, which are kind of cool. They're just like remote detonation bombs. They know how to use the throne. Honestly, it might even be better to have like a squadron of like low to mid-level wizards that know how the wizard's tower works or the sanctum works. Not that they're super powerful, but they just like know which buttons to push. Like the training room, they know how to use the training room. They could lure you into the training room, bring the fight there, and then they go, ha! And they use the magic word or something to escape and leave you trapped in there, you know? Like, that's more fun because then it's environmental and you don't have this giant fucking stat block of 2 wizards that are level 20.
That's actually a really good idea. Making them a whole like cadre of wizards who have a sort of battle royale pact that one of them, one of them will get to use the throne, and who knows, maybe it's you. If we all work together, we can fight over it at the end.
It should be a bunch of like level 10 clones that each believe they're the original, because then you don't have to read a bunch of stat blocks.
Very clever. The Magic Eater was a pretty good part of that dungeon.
Is it? Because it's just a big ball. I guess you can move it around and you can eat magic with it, which is kind of cool. But like if you break it, it just goes to the throne and destroys things. Yeah, I guess the fact that you can control it a little bit, you can move it around. Like what? It retains the same orientation from whoever carries the sphere, I guess.
What was kind of engaging to me is that it's pretty rare in these older modules. The ones I've read don't usually have the potential for world-altering consequences. Whereas this module has a thing that if you let out this monster, maybe there's no more magic items in your world.
Yeah, I did like that too, but eats the throne. Does it do more after? I thought that it went to eat the throne and the throne and it destroyed each other. Or did I misread that?
Do they destroy each other? No. Well, in that event, maybe I'm giving the module more credit than it deserves.
I mean, they do say that if you claim this place as a hideout, like demigods and uber wizards will come here to challenge you, and other things will happen, which is kind of cool. That feels impactful. That's you changing the setting. So I like that. It's a sweet, sweet, super hangout. And the throne is, you can fly around and you're invisible and you're in the astral plane and summon monsters and meteor swarm, which is great. And it makes you...
I do love it.
It makes you just like an absolute tyrant for the whole region. Like if you have any enemies, you can just like fly to their house invisible at night at 600 miles an hour, summon a fucking bunch of elephant seals in their room, and then blow them up.
It is a real game changer for a campaign because it basically... If they're going to use this thing, then they're working on a different scale from dungeon delving now.
Oh my god, you know what it is? It's a death note, basically. You know who it is, you just got to kill him. So the only challenge is figuring out who you got to kill, which is fun.
Yeah.
That's a campaign changing item, and it would certainly change the timber, which I like. I like something that powerful being available. Although it also sounds like Ed wants it to be very difficult to hold on to, which I'm fine with.
It's a death note that everybody knows you have.
Oh yeah, that makes it tougher. But what about the Magic Eater? Because can you just pick that up with you and then take it with you out of the dungeon and then use it to just like melt wizards?
I don't think you have that much control over it. I think it's much more governed by its hunger for magic than it is by any control. I think once it's out, it's out.
All right, I'm going to read it. Okay, so there's a orb that you can ponder. It is 1 foot wide. It's on a plinth, and there's a huge 20-foot diameter glass sphere resting in a hollow in the floor, filled with a swirling lime green, opaque cloud of smoke. A cloud of smokiness. All right. Why can't I write like that? All right. So if you shatter the smaller sphere, the big thing breaks up, releases the Eater of Magic. If you move the smaller sphere, the larger one will move too, remaining the same distance and direction from the control sphere as when they are found. The larger sphere turns momentarily and partially gaseous without releasing the prisoner whenever necessary to pass through walls and other solid obstructions. So maybe it just follows you like a dog. Or you can like rotate it around and put it on top of things, and then it eats things. Because it passes through walls, I assume it would pass through people. And if you pass it over a person, maybe it eats their magic.
I honestly didn't consider that. My reading of that same bit of text was that you could move it around as much as you want, but if you intersected the magic eater, a magic item, then it did not release the magic eater sufficiently for it to eat the magic item. But I think you're probably more correct.
I mean, that's
or
what
at least your take is more interesting.
I like it. It's just the fucking, you know how they have like the orb of disintegration or whatever it's kind of like an orb of disenchantment, basically. Except it's, 20 feet across? Jesus fucking Christ. But, I mean, I kind of like the idea of just a big ball you can, like, Katamari over a wizard, and then when you roll it past the wizard, it's just, like, all his magical shit's disenchanted. Which is also pretty, game-changing.
I mean, I would absolutely let my players do that with the caveat that, for one thing, they have to be constantly aware of it because it's always in relation to an orb that they have.
Which is fragile.
So it's not like they can put it away. This effect is always somewhere near them.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be really difficult to manage in a lot of situations. And also, like if someone hits you with a sword, I'm probably going to be rolling a percentile die every single time with some like maybe a 1% chance that you let the Eater of Magic free.
Oh, I just like the idea. I mean, that's everything you said is good, and I like that too. But also, like, it's also a hindrance if you ever have to climb aboard a magically flying castle. Can it disenchant the castle you're in? Probably pretty easily.
That begs the question. I mean, you're in a flying castle.
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, you're not. It does explicitly say that you get teleported to an underground castle.
Really? What a cop-out.
Maybe that's why. Maybe someone in editing was like, won't it disenchant the flying castle?
I guarantee that it did not happen. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I like to talk about too is how dungeons are laid out, if there's any loops or alternate paths, or how better to lay them out. And both of these dungeons aren't very interesting. Like the Wizard Sanctum, the Cheiromar Sanctum is kind of just a hub. It's a big room with a bunch of little rooms around it. And then the other one, the Tomb, is just sort of like a linear crawl with a few one-room offshoots, and then a bunch of secret rooms at the end of one of the paths. Like, they're not too good. Well, also, like, the whole reason for having alternate paths through your dungeon is to give you different approaches, or to allow you to use these new paths in new ways, or, I don't know, allow you to master the dungeon. And none of the rooms really extend beyond the rooms, Like, I like it when rooms they interact, It matters which rooms are next to which rooms. And I think most of the rooms in both dungeons are very independent. They don't interact with each other, Like, the orientation of the rooms doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you make it a convoluted, looping, multi-path dungeon or make it a linear adventure, because they're just little random rooms you bump into.
I feel like the first dungeon could be really good in that respect with just a little bit of tweaking. Like maybe that river that broke through is much closer to room 13 so that you can hear the water when you're in that room and, potentially break it open and create a new path. And maybe that dead end right near the entrance in some way, like, there could be a secret door there that connects to Area 10.
Yeah, I mean, I like the loops if they allow you a new way to interact with the room or make you a master of the dungeon. Like, if there was a secret door on the stream that allows you to go to the back side of the axe room, and then you can just get the axe easily without dealing with the spiderweb bullshit, that would be cool, because then, you found a way to bypass it. Or you can see the room from one side, but you can't reach it. Then you have to find the secret door. Maybe you can see into the rooms from the riverside, but you can't get there, but there's secret rooms there. And that kind of like renews your search because the secret rooms are there somewhere, That's fun.
The second dungeon is also just really weirdly big, which I think is like a kind of a common thing in some of these the TSR modules from this era.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been in a hallway that's 10 feet wide? It's insane. That's like the widest hall widest hallway they have at the widest like hospital, the super ones.
This first room at the dungeon at the top of the Endless Stair, it's like a gymnasium that has a coffin in the middle of it and a shelf on the wall. And it's kind of empty otherwise.
Maybe the Cheiromar threw sick parties. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, does it matter though? Like, there's all these little design decisions, like how dungeons are laid out, how big the rooms are. The big room's a little interesting too because you could have more space for wizard battles, I guess. Because Ed really wanted the wizards to bust in behind you after you explored a couple of rooms, I think, and start messing with shit because he spent so many words on it. So like maybe that's why it's big, is so you can have room to summon demons to fight each other, or I don't know.
I suppose. While we're addressing dungeon layout and the way that the points of interest interconnect with one another and how they could offer additional mastery, it's worth bringing up the point crawl, which has a much better layout, but nothing interesting in it.
Let me pull up the page, because I'm sure I have thoughts there too.
It's just a dungeon in the woods, right?
No. I mean, I guess there's trails. I guess there are trails. They want it to be sort of like a dungeon. But like, let me ask you this question though. Like, why do we use dungeons in the first place? Why not just have like a bunch of little houses in a row?
I mean, we use dungeons because it constrains the action, right?
Yeah.
It gives us very clear, like, here's a sphere of possibility, and there's things that are happening, and you can do things, and there's X number of comprehensible exits. But I feel like this point crawl is gesturing towards the idea that we can maintain that form, but we don't have to be underground. We can do that in the woods. They don't do a very good job of it here, but...
Yeah, no, I agree with your answers. It's there to constrain your actions and your paths and how you gather information. And in the woods, I don't know. Woods are just like, it's not a bad point crawl. It looks like an actual trail map, which is nice. I don't know, but you can't, because everything's far away. In a dungeon, you have all these like interesting, like a loop is interesting because you can see into a different room. Like we mentioned, possible uses of having loops inside the very first dungeon. Maybe you can see into the secret room, and that gives you a clue the secret room is there, or it allows you an easy way to access a difficult to reach magic item, But loops in forests don't have the same punch because, like, it's a site, it's a field. It doesn't really matter which way you approach it from, And so all these directionalities and all these loops and these paths, they just give you different sequences for you to interact with these sites. And unless you design them carefully, you might as well just roll on a d20 and say, okay, you bump into this site first, then you bump into that site, Unless you have like good way to present information about what's to the east, what's to the west. It's no different than rolling on a random table, And that's why you need to have information built into it and a way to design a way to present that information and use the point crawl as something more than just a series of unrelated events, because that's kind of what the point crawl was. Although, to be fair, I didn't spend very much time reading the point crawl items.
I suppose I would agree that you have to design it carefully in order for it to work. You're right that a loop in a dungeon gives you the opportunity to approach something from a different angle, whereas in a forest point crawl, you could just say, okay, I go into the woods and I move around and approach from a different angle. So I definitely see where you're coming from.
Also, too, with the point crawl, if you just like got a bunch of dice and randomized where things were, would it matter? Like there's trappers' trails, there's some clearings here, there's a cave with a solitary hunter living in it, with some bear paw snowshoes, which is kind of cool. There's some far off crags with some wyverns on it, But like most of these are just standalones. You could randomize the locations and it wouldn't matter, So I don't know. It feels like the point crawl could be replaced with a random table if that's the case.
This point crawl, I would agree with you on that. So many of these are literally not even described in the text. There is a line in the text that says something to the effect of, if it's not described, It's a clearing that has a name because someone chopped trees there once, and it's named after the guy who chopped trees there 20 years ago. So yes, this point crawl, I will readily grant you, could largely be replaced with a random table. I think its layout is pretty good, and I think if they took some consideration with the locations, this could have been a really fun part of the adventure.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's like 22 sites on here, and none of them are good, you know? People, I think, approach these types of adventures like, okay, it's a big forest, and you think you need to have a lot of items, but you don't. You could just write a list of like D4 or D6 well-crafted, creative, meaningful, impactful events. Because you could save pages of content and just have a few well-done things, because realistically, the players aren't even going to want to bump into all these stupid sites. They have a job to do, you know?
There's one in here that I quite like that has nothing to do with the main line adventure. So it's established that a lot of these places have names based on information that isn't necessarily true anymore. Like they're named after someone who died 10 years ago, but that was where he chopped wood. So it's named after him. So there's this location, in addition to all of these clearings, called Wyvern's Crag.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just imagine a group of players being like, wyverns, we're high level. We know wyverns. Like, they have this certain kind of poison. We'll make sure we're ready to be enchanted against this kind of poison. And they go there and discover there's no wyverns living there. It's a bunch of griffins. Because nothing here has up-to-date names. And I think that's a cute encounter.
Wyverns, can't live with them, can't live without them.
Also, to give anyone listening some context on what makes one of these clearings special, one of them has a shovel.
Oh, I can't find the shovel.
Neighbors will occasionally come to this clearing to get the shovel so they can use it, but they'll always bring it back. The person whose shovel it is dead.
Can I read it?
Oh, did you not see that
No,
one?
I skipped over it because there's so much of clearance.
Okay.
Aglar's Cut. The clearing of Aglar's Cut also has a shovel left behind years ago by Aglar, now deceased, and left by common consent of all the locals, who borrow it from time to time, but always return it. Treat it as a club if it is used in combat. Okay, that's great. That's like 2 lines, and I love it.
It's a cute detail, but it is also literally the most special of these clearings.
Well, I just like the idea of you finish the mission, you go back to the tavern, and everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing with Aglar's shovel? Put it back.
That would work so much better in a lower level adventure. But I can't help but feel like you're explicitly saying that we need like wizards with 9th level spells, 2 of them, in order to even begin this adventure. Like, none of these players are going to give a shit about a shovel.
Also, think about how much time they'll waste investigating a random shovel standing in the middle of a clearing. Also, another thought I just had is this adventure does not have to be a high-level adventure. You could run this for level 1s, honestly. Give a bunch of level 1 characters the ability to use the throne and fly around and summon monsters. I guarantee it'll be more interesting than a bunch of level 21s.
Yeah. The only thing that really forces it to be high level is the 2 level 20-something wizards who attack you together.
Just replace them with a bunch of lower level apprentices, or make them one apprentice that was split into like 15 body parts, now monstrously magnified, or make it 2 high level wizards that are so busy fighting each other they literally ignore the PCs unless they're actually sitting in the throne or something. I don't know. You can make it fun. I think we should not rate things, because I don't like rating things, because I'm kind of mean sometimes. But I think we should kind of talk about modules in sense of like what we would steal from them. Because stealing is flattery, and I want to give compliments.
I would absolutely steal the throne. I would steal that trap that with the spikes that fall from the ceiling.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally going to run this module in one of my campaigns, so I guess I'm stealing the whole thing. Really.
I would steal the idea of an endless stair that goes into the sky. I still like the idea of a stair dimension, or like a stair dungeon. Maybe the next stair only appears when you step on one stair, so you have to step on them. I don't know. You could do a lot of things with that. That idea has legs, I think.
Yes.
And I think we've also both liked the idea of like one tomb intersecting another. That's a pretty good idea too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The eyes aren't bad as long as you do something with them.
You know, the hand, we didn't talk about that at all, but I like that as a monster. You know, the wizard, he's dying, and he wants to create a guardian for his tomb, so he cuts his hand off and plucks his eye out, presumably, and, you know, merges them together into a little thing that casts spells at tomb robbers. I think it works.
It'd be kind of fun is if like the wizard's hand is flying around, it's a guardian, and you get there and you open his tomb, and like all his body parts are little animated helpers like Pokemon, and they all start flying around and doing stuff. Like the feet start cleaning, and the other hand starts, I don't know, cleaning or making food, and like the torso just like flies around, and I don't know, blast rats.
Yeah, I feel let's see, is there anything we haven't really discussed? Oh, this is a minor quibble. There are a number of runes throughout the module that it makes a point of having illustrations for, and none of them are ever relevant for anything.
Still cool though. People love runes.
I kind of wonder if it was just an expectation that players would be like, oh, what's the rune look like?
Yeah, I don't mind that. That's a fun detail. Like, wizards have runes, and if your wizard ever meets a wizard, they're like, well, what's your rune? You know, it's like having a business card. How do I scry you if I don't have your rune?
It irritates me because I am preparing to run this module, and I'm like trying to prepare the various things that I need to have ready to send them. And I was making sure I had these runes set aside, and then got to the end of the module and was like, oh, they're never going to want to see these.
I mean, isn't one of the runes belonging to, like, the dead guy?
I think so. I think it's basically just your name, but not a name. Yeah.
But you could have his name, like, in the final shrine or something, you know, to make it more apparent. Yeah, the first rune you see is from the very first corpse you find, it's extremely irrelevant to the entire adventure. But, like, you could put that rune at places and make it more linked, I guess.
I guess moving backwards to the beginning, before we completely wrap on this, there's the tavern bit, which we glossed over in play. And I guess I don't know if I really have anything to say.
The tavern bit sounds so boring. It sounds like you sit there while the DM talks to himself for 30 minutes about who's walking in the room and which stupid voice says stupid things. Like, when I DM, I try to minimize the amount of time that I'm just performing and maximize the time when someone walks up and starts talking at the party, you know, because then they actually get to interact. Yeah. And this starts with a big, long stage production of people walking in and freaking out and going, well, gotta go to the Jakes and take a little poop. And then they do that, and the guy dies, and you just have to talk to yourself. I don't know, I don't like it. You should just have it so everyone there is mind-controlled and dancing for the entertainment of one patron who's the wizard, and he's trying to make an army of mind-controlled people to defeat his other enemy, the other wizard, and he's down to hire the party.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, if I was going to do dueling wizards, I'd give them very different tool sets. Like, one flies around on a flying seashell pulled by snails, and the other one has, like, mind control powers and plays an instrument, you know?
Yes. I mean, I remember when I was first getting into old school play, that I was coming from 3rd edition, and it was such a revelation to me that not everything needs to follow the rules. Like, you know, 3rd edition has the commoner class and the specialist class, these NPC classes that exist for your random farmers so that you can give them stats, instead of just saying they have 1 HP or something if it becomes relevant.
Or just saying peasant, you know?
Yeah. It was revelatory to me as I got into old school games that not everything needs to be codified. Some things can just be what they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I have gotten deeper into old school games, as I have, you know, spent 10, 12 years being interested in them at this point, it's like, man, the people who wrote the old school games were falling into these same traps where they insist that their NPC wizards follow the same rules laid out for player character wizards. And it's goofy.
Yeah.
They should be riding snails and farting lightning bolts.
It's like throwing wet towels on a puppy. It just, after a certain number of them, it's suffocating and it's not fun and it kind of feels cruel. And you don't have to codify things. You just have to answer the questions that the players and the DM are going to have when they run it. And that's literally all the adventure has to do, is give you the tools you need to run it. It just has to answer their questions. It doesn't have to do anything else. You can just say so-and-so is a peasant. You don't have to describe how exquisitely easy it is to kill them. And when I lean out of the window of my Uber and I call someone a peasant, that's really what I'm saying, is I could kill you easily with a brick. You don't have to put numbers to it.
I mean, if anything, putting numbers to it elevates them beyond their station.
Okay, you should have 2 wizards who are dueling and also a third rival who's like a were-mammoth. He's just this huge guy who wants to sit on the throne, but he's so big he can't go up the stairs anyway. And because both wizards can fly, they kind of ignore him.
That's really fucking good. Well, I think we've wrung pretty much all of the discussion we can out of this module.
It does feel juiced, fully juiced.
Yeah, I mean, it's been sitting on my shelf for years as something that I've been vaguely intrigued by, so it is edifying to thoroughly juice it.
I get to pick the next one, right?
Oh, absolutely you do, but you have to run it too.
Okay. I'll try not to pick something too big.
That is the trick. It's hard to fit a whole module into an hour and a half.
You did a really good job. I think you covered all the big things. You slowed down for the impactful parts and glossed over a lot of boring ones that didn't have any decisions.
I'm glad it went well.
I enjoyed dying in a hole with you, even though I guess... No one died. My thief... No, I had a thief die, right? He fell.
You cried in a hole.
I cried in a hole, and then I fell off a tower of infinite stairs that numbered 300, and then I fell and my body cratered into a hole, and I died there.
That's true, actually. So you both cried and died in a hole. All thieves, too. Very lawful of you to make sure all of your thieves die.
I did my best. What the paladin doesn't have strength to do, I must do for him. Well, thank you very much for running that. That was a joy, and I look forward to the next time I could die in a hole with you.